This conference will now
okay.
be
I will mention
recorded.
the details, all the links from July 21st. I will share you. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Oh. Okay. So in the last class, we completed the accordion section, right? Okay. So this is like accordion example. Let me open the Bootstrap website. Yeah, collapse, right? The collapse example use the accordion section. Okay, collapse means like it's all related to like collapse, collapsible, and accordions, like tab systems. Okay, everything will like the same requirement. Okay, like multiple targets. Okay, like first element and second element, and both elements. Okay, and there is a accordion. There is accordion.
I have a question in Dropdown. Can I
Okay.
ask you
Do you have
now?
any doubts in this in the last class?
Yeah, from Dropdown.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned that
From
SR,
Dropdown. Okay.
yeah, SR only, right? So that's there for
Yes.
disabled
Yes.
people, something like that, right? So I didn't really get it how they
Yeah.
will know, but why can't we know? I didn't understand that one. Because I think you mentioned can
Okay.
hear
So
something.
mainly, yeah, this is the right SR only class. Where it is. Yeah, this is the right span class SR only toggle dropdown. Okay. Uh, Actually, this the toggle dropdown text is not for the common people who are able to see and who are able to hear the screen and audio. Okay, this is only for the disabled people, disability people. Like disabled means like blind people, deaf and dumb people who are not able to use the mouse and keyboard. Okay, this is only for the disabled people. So as you asked me how they can find this is the drop down. If you mouse over, if you mouse click on the button, how they can see, how they can hear, right? So
Yeah,
every I think you know all of you in the US there is a rule. There is a government rule like I'm not sure that is like a 580 rule something is there in USA. Okay, so any rich application that should be accessible everybody. Okay, so everybody means even blind people and deaf people and who are challenging with physically. Okay, they also should be access the application.
right.
Otherwise, they will put a case. The
Mm.
application who are not able to access, they will launch a case against them. Okay, so all the people, the disability people, they will have some software to use all the other applications like web application and mobile applications, any other dashboards and all. Okay, they will install their software. Once the software is installed their system, these bootstrap classes will be enabled in their system SR only, because this bootstrap SR classes embedded in their software.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so once it is installed, these classes will enable, and the user mouse over on particular button or particular section, it will activate automatically.
Okay, so
The blind people,
they have to have some
they
different
cannot hear that.
different software to they have to install different
Yeah,
software to okay. That's
Yeah, yeah,
got it.
yeah. That will work. That will work on the blind people system. That is not for the general people.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. It is Apurva. Do you have any question?
No, I
Hello.
don't. I don't.
Okay. Okay. So in the last class, we completed the collapse and okay, and even drop down also, right? So the drop down we've done already 2 times from the navigation and in the button section. Okay, and carousel forms. Yeah, main interactive part. The forms means. So interactive functions. Here we are going to provide some validations and displaying some message. If it is correct information, we are going to say some success. Okay, success means that is right information. Okay, if it is like wrong data or wrong type of information, you can say some danger class by applying danger class for the message. You can apply the classes and here you can validate the form, enter the form. Okay, whether user entering the email is correct or not, whether user entering the mobile number or not in correct format. Okay, so here we can give the validation part also with the help of JavaScript. But look and feel, okay, the buttons, text box styling, checkbox styling, and the radio buttons styling, okay, the drop down styling, everything we can provide from the CSS. For the validation, we're going to use the JavaScript. Mainly, the user going to interact with the application through forms. The other information just going to read and they are going to access and navigating some other information. But here in the form section, they're going to interact with the application. So interacting means they are going to give us some information about their personal details, education details. Okay, other so many like suppose if you are applying loan details. Okay, so all this they are going to enter the some data and submitting to the server or to the client. So that is like kind of some interaction between the user and application. Okay, so here examples and usage guidelines for form control styles. Form control styles mainly we are going to use in the form section. Layout options, okay, and custom components for creating wide variety of forms. Uh, let's say here some little bit about these forms. Bootstrap's form controls expands on our rebooted form styles with classes. So classes means the Bootstrap classes. Okay, use these classes to opt into their customized displays for a more consistent rendering across browsers and devices. Okay, be sure to use an appropriate type. You remember the type. So in the form, suppose have 10 text boxes, like for example, first name, last name, full name, okay, email, mobile number, location, okay. So each and every input box we should provide type. If it is like a mix of text, we can say type is equal text. Okay, suppose it is an email text box, we need to say the type is equal email. Okay, if it is a mobile number, type is equal tel. So in each and every text box, we should provide the type also. Okay, type you can say type attribute on all inputs. Example email. So we should say type is equal email. Like if it is like any some PAN card number or any credit card number, we should say type is equal number. For numerical information to take advantage of new year, input controls like email verification, the number selection and more. Okay, here's a quick example to demonstrate Bootstrap form styles. Keep rendering keep reading for documentation on required classes, form layout, and more. See here, they given some basic example. I think we used in previous classes for some of the example. Okay. Let me go to- Okay. So in the label section, they provide the email address and text box. And the second one, password label and password text box. And finally, have some check me out and submit. The simple login panel. Okay. So like this, we are going to use forms, multiple text boxes, radio buttons, okay, check boxes, drop downs, and I teach you about the data list also. So for the auto completion, we are going to use the data list. If you have so many things like so once user starting typing, so we are going to display some auto complete things like given in the country section.
Yeah.
Right? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay. So like this, we can use the simple UI for the login screen. Just copy this code. Okay, and everything will be same look and feel like a label text box and some message. Okay, and again the password label, password text box, and checking out and submit. Okay, out of this, suppose if you want to apply some any CSS, you can write your one and you can apply. Okay, so let's say here, for example, this is the email address, right? So let me type some ABCXYZ. Okay, so it should say immediately this is not the email. Okay, you should enter email. So what is our email format? Username, address, and some abc.com. So that is exact email format. Once you set the type is equal to email, the user should enter exact email ID. Okay, ABC or some XYZ will not work. So that is kind of basic validation from the HTML. From the HTML data type, see in the we can see on the popover, so please include an @ in the email address. So that means the text box is expecting @ as per the email ID, and then some ABC dot. So now this is the correct format for the email. Okay, so this is the basic validations. These things we learn in HTML. Okay, but here we are going to apply the some form controls classes from the Bootstrap for the better look and feel. Okay, and different colors for the different messages. If it is a right message, we are going to apply success class. Okay, if it is a wrong data, we are going to apply the danger class for the how many wrong data. The danger means displaying red color. Okay, and even warning class also we are using. Okay, any some like some minimum characters or maximum characters they didn't provide. We are going to display some warning message. For example, your password length should be minimum 6 characters. Okay, user enter less than 6, we are going to display some warning message. So user need to reach 6 characters minimum for the password. Okay, so in that case, we're going to use the warning class. So these 3 classes we're going to use for the validation. Success class, warning class, danger class from the Bootstrap. Okay, so this is like a basic login panel, just with email address and password, and finally submit button. Let me go to the other thing. Form controls. Okay, the textual form controls like input or inputs, select, and text area are styled with the form control. So this is the base class, and we are going to apply for each and every text box for this kind of look and feel, like light border and round corners, okay, and spacing and placeholder text color also. So we can change the placeholder text color also. Okay, so if you didn't apply the class, the placeholder text color will be the 100% black. Suppose if you want to some disappear like some light color, okay, you can apply the color for the placeholders, because that is not important. Once you click on the text box, the placeholder will be clear, will be removed, and then user can enter some that. Okay, so that is the placeholder. You can change the placeholder text color also. Okay, so all this mentioned in the form control class. Form control class is just like a base class for the every text box. Only text box. When you say the type is called text, okay, or type is called some email, okay, not for the checkboxes, radio buttons, drop downs. It's only for the checkboxes, text boxes. Okay, so we are going to start with the form control class from the every text box. Okay, included are styles for general appearance, focus, state, sizing, and more. Okay, I teach you about the focus also, and state, sizing, and more. Okay, so let me go to on the see here. Here they given some of the example here. The first one is email, and example select. It's like a drop down. Okay, and the third one is also like a drop down, but here you can select multiple values by pressing the control from the keyboard. You can select multiple values like this. But in the above example, we can select only one. So this I teach in the HTML classes, the form section. Okay, and finally the last one is example textual. So here we can write the multiple columns, multiple rows as well. In the above text boxes, you can write only one line with multiple columns. Multiple columns, nothing but like it will be one character is like one column. Okay, suppose I have three characters on the first line. We have three columns. Okay, in the first row, have three characters. In the second row, have around how many? 2, 4, 7. Yeah, 7 columns. 7 characters with 7 columns. Like this, we are going to count rows and columns. So if you want to type like a more text, like some requirement or some any description or some message, we are going to use the text area, like this kind of message box. Okay, and let me copy this example. Okay, so now we have the form. So the form is compared the total state, the total web page. So this form I want to make in the center. Okay, so for making center, what are the classes we are going to use? That usually in the container class and grid classes. So first I should use the container using some div element class equals container. And inside the containers, again the second class, the row. Suppose if you are using the multiple rows, we are going to use the rows. Now it is just a container. So the inside the container we have now it is exact center of your screen. Okay, so suppose here you are going to use the multiple rows, you can use the rows also. Okay, in the first row like the forms, in the second row like for example any some message or some FAQs. Okay, we can mention the row also, row columns. If it is like a one row, like this kind of forms, the row is not mandatory. No need to apply the row. No problem. There is no any problem. Okay. So like this, we're going to use the multiple forms here. Like say one by one here. The class, the form group. Okay. The class form group means this form group class is applying these two, the label and the input for the positioning, alignment. Okay, so now it is how it is. The email address is on top and the below is the text box. So this, for these two we are going to apply the form group class for displaying them. Otherwise how it will display if you didn't apply the form group class? Okay, so basically the forms how will display, like positioning. I'm going to say the positioning means like alignment. If I took the two text boxes, how it will display, like one below one or side by side? Ananta?
Side by side.
Yes. Okay, so if there is no any CSS, by default the text boxes or labels it will display side by side because of inline elements. So inline elements it will place side by side. So like this, if you want like one below one, like whatever the label, text boxes and other label and drop downs and all. So we are going to apply display block. Okay, once you apply the display block, all the text boxes labels will display and place side by one below one. Okay, that is the main thing in the form group class for displaying one below one, and some other CSS borders. Okay, and paddings. All these will apply in the form group class. When you're going to use multiple elements like labels, text boxes, we're going to apply the form group class for the common CSS. Again, each and every text box, radio button, checkbox will have some specific CSS for that requirement. For the group elements, we are going to apply the form group class for the common CSS. Okay, so here I provided the form group class for the first label and input for the email input. Okay, and the second one is the drop down. Div class form group again. Okay, and the label, for example, form control select one, and some example select, that is label, and we started the select. Here see we started the form control class. Again, these form controls also required for each and every the text box element. Okay, form group is the common for all elements. Okay, form control class is only for the text boxes, drop downs, text areas like this. These two classes only plain CSS for the text boxes and drop downs on other elements also. Okay, for example, let's say here there's no form class here on the drop down. Let me check it here. Like I'll remove the form control class in the text box, email text box. Okay, I remove the class form control. Okay, now this is like a look and feel with the form controls. Once you reload, it will plain reload as a plain text box. See, this is our without HTML text box. What is it, class? 1 second, Apurva. Okay, so this is the plain HTML basic one. Now there is no any Bootstrap CSS control form control class from the text box, and it was placed side by side and dark border and no space. Okay, like small text box. Once you apply the form control class, So some CSS will apply from the Bootstrap. Now again the same, like one below one, and we are using the total space from the parent element. Okay, and the light border with round corners, and we have some more space also surrounding the text box. Okay, so like this we are going to apply the form control class for every text box. Okay, and other thing is like the same common what I teached in the HTML, like using the select tag and providing options like option 1, option 2, option 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is like you can say in the drop down in the forms drop for selecting any option. Okay, and the second example is for selecting multiple options. Okay, here in the second example we can select multiple, like for example press the control from the keyboard. Okay, and you can select randomly a number of options. Okay, so this is multiple selection drop down, this single selection drop down. Okay, so like this we can use the drop downs in two ways, and we can apply the same CSS, the form control class. Here also the form control class. Okay, so like here there is no any new things. Okay, we learned already about HTML form select, label, text boxes and options, and even I covered multiple in the HTML5 class. Okay, and mainly here we are going to apply the Bootstrap class for our HTML elements. Okay, and the last one is the form group label example text area. So for writing multiple lines, multiple rows of text, we are going to use the text area tag. Okay, this is the text area tag for writing some long message. Okay, so is it clear, Ananta and Apurva?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 Let me go to other thing, like for example sizing. Okay, sizing also same thing what I teach you in the previous classes. For the button examples, okay, I teach you about the sizes. Like if you say form control as like big text boxes for the large text. Okay, so the default input, the form control as. So in the previous class also I teach you, if you didn't provide any particular size of particular device like LG, XS, XL, okay, SM, MD. So what is the size? What is the default size? What is the default device? Medium desktop. Okay, so if you didn't apply any size class, the class is MD class, right?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so there is no any device class. The device class is MD class. So MD class means medium desktop from 992 and up to 1200 pixels. That is the MD device. Okay, so that is the button size, that is the text box size by default. If you want to apply some specific size for specific device, we can apply our classes like LG, SM, okay, or XL. We can use those classes, the device classes. Okay, for LG means large screen, and for SM means tablets or iPads. Okay, and this is also same for the drop down also same. Okay, so here we given one add the read only, the boolean attribute on an input to prevent modification of the input's value. Read only inputs appear lighter, just like disable inputs, but retain the standard person. Okay, so the read only is actually we have attribute in the HTML5. Okay, so here we can provide read only in the Bootstrap. Okay, so here they given some example. They have some text box, and in this they have some read only input here. Okay, and we can focus on the text box, but we cannot select the text. In the above example, we can select the text, whatever we have inside the text placeholder. Let me show. Yeah, here, see. Okay, so from here we can see the text and we can see the cursor, and then we can type the text in a text. Okay, but once you said read only, you can see and we can focus on the text box. Okay, but we cannot enter any value of this. So that means there is the fixed data. So user cannot change, user cannot modify the data. So that is only just like a read only means that is like a fixed data on the text box. Okay, so for this can same thing like a form class, form control, and type text placeholder read only input and read only attribute. So this HTML attribute for the fixed data. This you can say read only attribute in your text box. Let's say for example, you are logging your Gmail. Okay, once you enter the email on your text box, and you are going to click on the next button for entering password. Okay, immediately it will come the password text box, and your email will be read only. In that section, you cannot modify, you cannot enter any other email. So that is like once you enter the email, so that is a registered and fixed data, and we need to provide the password only that email ID. Okay, so that means that email ID is in the password state. That is like a fixed data, and it's read only purpose. We can't change even though we cannot select the email ID. Okay, so in that case, we're going to use the read only text. And some other examples also we can use the read only class and read only attribute. Okay, the read only plain text. So here, the read only plain text means here we can select the data like this. And the above is the like kind of disabled data. Okay, and the read only plain text you can select the data, but you cannot modify. Here they said if you want to have input read only elements in your form cell has a plain text. Okay, is the form control plain text class to remove the default form field styling and preserve the current margin and padding. Okay, it's a little bit difference between the read only and read only plain text. Okay, and the next section. Email, yeah, this is just a different format like a vertical and a horizontal, placing the horizontal. Okay, so till now we use like one below one, like a label and text box, label text box. Okay, but you can say the form group, and you can say the row class also, and the horizontal placing, you can say the form inline. So for the horizontal means, suppose if you want to place like side by side uh, text box and password text box and button confirm identity. Okay, suppose if you want to create like this kind of form, in the starting you should say form inline. So form inline means we're going to place side by side. Okay, 1 second, I'll put my charger in battery slow.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, so for the horizontal requirement, you need to see only the form inline class. The rest of thing, everything same. What we have provided in the label text boxes and dropdowns, text areas, radio button checkboxes. What we have applied, that's everything same. Only the horizontal position, you can just apply the form inline class. Okay, let me copy this. I'll show you the difference with form inline class and without inline class. Okay, see, now it is side by side. Email text box and password and confirm identity button or submit button or something. Now it is placed side by side. By applying the form inline class. Okay, let me remove the form inline class. Now there is no form inline. See, now it is placing like one below one. The first email text box, password text box, and confirm identity. So that is without format. So some requirement we need to provide side by side so that we can use the form inline class. The rest of the same like form group and other for the margin, uh, paddings, borders, like form text control. Okay, you can apply other classes as well. The rest of thing everything same. Okay, so now this is the form inline class. Let me go to this other example. The range input. Okay, so the range we learned already in the HTML5 form. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just applying some basic style. Okay, for the this one, the background color. Okay, and the range color. Okay, and this button color. This we are going to apply the form class, the range class here. The form control is the basic class for other elements. Only for the range, you can just add the form control range. That is it. You will get this kind of look and feel. Okay. The range colors, okay, the background colors and focus state, you can get this kind of styling. Only thing you need to add form control range. That is a CSS class. The rest of thing you have to say. When the form group is common and for label is common, everything is okay. And checkboxes and radius. The default checkboxes and radius are improved upon with the help of form check. So in the above example, we use the form control and form control range and other like a form inline, form group. Form group, form inline is common for all the elements. Particularly form control is only for the text boxes. Form control range is only for the range data type. And now the form check is only for the checkboxes and radio buttons also. Okay. Single class for both input types that improves the layout and behavior of the HTML elements. And the checkboxes are for selecting one or several options in a list. Okay, while radius are for selecting one option from many. Okay, that is depends on the requirement. We can select or one or more than one option. Okay, disable checkboxes and radios are supported. The disable attribute will apply lighter color. Okay, as I said in the above example, it is read only. Okay, so once you apply the read only attribute, the text color is a lighter color, light gray color, just like a disable. Okay, the lighter color to help indicate the input state. And checkboxes and radio buttons support HTML-based form validation and provide concise, accessible labels. As such, our inputs are labels, and labels are sibling elements, as opposed to input within a label. This is slightly more verbose, as you must specify ID and for attributes to relate the input and label. Okay, so here if you see on the text boxes, any other. Okay, see here in the text box, we have ID is equal some form control range. Okay, the same ID we provide on the label also. Label for form control range, right? So why we are providing this form, the label for form control range in the text box ID is equal form control range means. Suppose if you are going to use more than one, the same requirement. For example, if you see any e-commerce website or any dashboard, we are going to use the range multiple times. Okay, so if you didn't provide any some relative between the those range scrolls, it will be confused and it will not validate. Okay, so for that kind of requirement, we are going to provide for each and every range for form control range means this is for input box, this input box type range in the form control range class and ID form control range. Suppose if you have one more form range group, again you can say the label section, you can say form control range 1 or 2. Okay, the same ID, same thing we're going to provide as ID form control range 1 or 2, whatever the name you give, 1 2 3 4 like that. Or you can say some text name also. Okay, so for this we're going to use the ID and here in the label section the format. This we are going to provide the relationship between the label and text box. Okay, checkboxes and radius. Okay, the default stack form check. Okay, so here you can check on the first one and you cannot check on the second. Okay, the first one is checkable, the second one is not checkable because that's the disable text checkbox. The first one is you can select or you can check the checkbox. The second one is visible. So here you need to say only disable attribute. The first one user can check the checkbox. The second one, where is the second one here? The form check class, form check input, type checkbox, value, and ID, the default check to. See here in the two example, they repeated the two checkboxes, right? The IDC, the default check 1 and default check 2. Like this way, you can provide the different IDs. If you use like more than one text box or any other reader buttons, checkboxes, like 1, 2, 3, or okay. So in the last one is the disable. Okay, so in the second text box, they provide the disable, so the user cannot check the text box already given in the HTML file. The disable, okay, in the checkboxes like checked. Okay, if you provide the check text box, by default, the text box is loading with check. Okay, if you didn't provide any check for the text box or radio buttons, okay, the user can be checked manually. Okay, so these are like some basic styling from the Bootstrap. All of the checkboxes, reader buttons. Okay, with read only. Okay, and disable. Like this is for the text box checkboxes, and second one is radio buttons. See, so in the radio button we have three, like a default radio, second default radio, and disable radio. Now the disable we cannot select. Okay, if you select the first and second, by default the first one is selected. I mean that is a check the first default radio. And if I click on the second default radio, now it is checked. The first one is deselected. Okay, so that means for the radio buttons, internally it's applying some boolean values. Boolean means that is JavaScript concept, yes or no. Okay, if you check the second one, that is true, and the first one is false. If you check the first one is true, and the second one is false. So that's kind of like a boolean value, like yes or no. If one is yes, and then another one is false. Okay, that is you can say the boolean value in the JavaScript. So based on the boolean value, the value will be applied, like true or false. Okay, the same thing I given in the HTML form where radio section, radio, yeah. The gender example I given this, like male, female, and others. I given the same example. Remember, Ananta and Apurva?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, but here we are going to apply some additional CSS. The functionality, the HTML tags and attributes, everything is same. But here we are going to provide this additional CSS for this kind of look and feel. Whatever the text color, size, font, okay, and placing side by side, and check the active CSS, okay, and the basic style for the which is not selected for the radio buttons and checkboxes. Okay, this we are providing additional CSS from the Bootstrap for all the elements. Given the example in the text box, right? If there is no Bootstrap, it's just like a raw HTML input. Once you apply the form control class, it's applying some padding, border, round corners, and applying display block for placing one below one. Okay, so these are all additional CSS for all text boxes and radio buttons, checkboxes. The same way, even though you can use the checkbox also for the inline class for displaying side by side on your checkboxes, like first one, second one. Okay, this checkbox and this one is value, and the second checkbox and this is the value. Third one I have that is visible. Okay, for here we're going to place like side by side using the form check inline. This is the class for checkboxes. So here, if you say form inline means, so what will happen? That will apply only for the normal text. Like for example, I have the 4 text box with a different data. Like for example, first name, last name, okay, email. Okay, I have like 4 text boxes. In that case, we can provide the form inline. So only checkbox into say form check inline. Okay, for the checkboxes, we can apply this class for placing side by side like this. These are all like a simple classes. Just we are going to apply CSS for more better looking feel and positioning, and for the responsive purpose, and for different colors. Okay, so this is just additional CSS for our HTML content. For radio button also same. Without labels. Position static to inputs with the form check. Don't have any label. Just okay, this is just basic classes, basic attributes for all other inputs.
layout and form groups. Yeah, layout and form groups, nothing but I teach already in the above. Once you apply the form groups, what will happen? The display block will apply on each and every element so that it will place one below. Okay, and width 100%. If you didn't provide any specific width or specific columns like a grid cell, okay, so the text box will use the 100%, just like this. Here I didn't provide anything, but this is inline. In the previous example, what is that? Here it is. The form button primary data. This audio. Yeah, this also of course. Yeah, here I use the container class. Okay, let me close the comments. See, now we have the form section again here. I have the main parent class, the container. As per our container width, the entire text box, the label and text box is 100% of your container. Okay, suppose if you want to use the 50% of the container, we need to split like two columns by applying the grid classes, like 50% 6 grids and 50% 6 grids. Okay, like this you can separate applying the grid classes. Otherwise, if you if you didn't provide any class for the width purpose, it will use 100% the text boxes and other elements also like dropdowns, okay, or text area, everything will apply 100%. Okay, so that is for the layout purpose we are using. And form group class is the easiest way to add some structure to forms. Okay, it provides a flexible class that encourages proper grouping of labels. So as I said in the group class, so if you have more than one element, okay, more than one text box labels and other elements, we are going to provide the form group class for the repeating CSS. Repeating means no need to provide each and every element. Okay, so we can provide form group class for the multiple elements for the same CSS, just like background color or padding, okay, or border. We can apply the class and positioning also. Okay, so that is like a form group class. And the same thing like about the marching bottom, page sets, div or nearly and other elements. Form grid. Yeah, as I said before. Okay, so if you didn't provide any grid number, okay, or any some fixed width, it will take 100% width, right? So here they give the two columns example. Okay, for our writing the full name, like the first name and the last name, we used two text boxes. Okay, so here I use like a class is called row on the div. Okay, for the two columns, row is the common class. So inside the row, we are going to provide the first column text box and second column text box. Okay, the column that is like a mobile class. Okay, and the type text class is called form control again here, the same repeated. The placeholder is first. Okay, how it was displayed side by side with the equal space and same width, like two equal columns. How much? This is the class, column class. Okay, so how many elements we have? 1 and 2. So two elements. Two elements means 100 by 2. So 100 by 2 means each element will take 50% of weight. So suppose if you use the 3 elements, the order element, it will share automatically 100 by 100 by 3 means it's around 33.333. Okay, based on your column, based on your width, it will calculate of width for each and every column, and that width will apply. It will split as a like 2 columns, 3 columns, 4 columns like that. So I teach you already in the Bootstrap, not Bootstrap, in the responsive section. Okay, how to create the multiple columns, like 2 equal columns, 3 equal columns, and calculation part. I teach you already in the response section. The same thing here. We are going to apply the Bootstrap classes, just like the column. Okay. Now the first column is applying 50% of it, and second column is applying 50% of it from your total container on any other device also, like MD device, extra large device, okay, LG device or SM device. On any device, it's just like a 2 equal columns. So once we create 2 equal columns by applying grid classes, whatever, and you can add your text element, text box, so that it looks like a 2 equal columns, and you can add your text boxes. Okay, so that's what here they said. The form grid, more complex forms can be built using our grid classes. Okay, is these for form layouts. Okay, that require multiple columns, varied widths, and additional alignment options. Okay, and form row. So here we are going to use the row class for suppose if you want to use like more than one row. Okay, we are going to apply row class for each and every section, like each and every row section. These two are going to apply the row class, and like this kind of requirement. Okay, in the first row I have the email password text box. Okay, and the second row I have the address and text box, and the third row address to and some other sub address details, and the other third row city, state, and city. So here in the third row we have different widths of text boxes and dropdowns like this. In the city we provide like around 50% of width and 50% of column, and other 50% to split again the 2 columns, like one for the state and another one is for the state zip code. Okay, so here again 2 different widths. So that's what here they said the columns code here. Let's say here. See here in the zip section they provide call MD2. On the MD device only 2 grids we are going to use. Okay, on the drop down section call MD4. Okay, and the city column call MD6. So total how many grids? The column the city column is 6 grids. Okay, the state grid is 4, and the zip column is 2. So total how many? 6, 4, 2. So total 12 grids they use to place this kind of requirement like this. So here we use the total width of your container, and here we have different widths for city column and state column and zip column. So you can give the layout any specific layout or any some custom layout by applying grid classes on your form elements. Okay, call MD6, call MD4, and column. Okay, for example, there is no zip column. Okay, we have only 2 columns, so we can provide the column MD6 and column MD for the state. So that is equal columns, like 50%, 50%. Okay, like that way you can create any form layouts, as I said, the form row classes and form layouts on this. horizontal form, like the same we used already in the previous example. Okay, so here the it's so many things repeating in other examples also. Only thing a little bit difference, like the size wise. Okay, for displaying purpose. Okay, for different color themes. Little bit difference repeated from each and every example. The rest of things say on every form and every example. It's about sizing. Okay, so like it's like a horizontal. Okay, so here I think there is no any new thing here in the form section. You can just go one by one, like a form group, form control classes, form checkbox classes. Okay, and radio button classes. Okay, and disable read only. Okay, just to go to one by one. If there is any doubt, I will teach you on next classes.
Okay.
I'll paste. Okay, okay, so okay, it's again the disable inputs. See, if you see the entire thing from the top to bottom, so many things repeated for the text boxes, dropdowns, radio buttons, any other form elements. In each and every example, only just little bit difference to apply some different CSS. Okay. So after the forms, we have input group again the same like the input group is our form element only. The jumbotron I will teach you already. The list group is just like a plain CSS. We're going to apply little bit CSS for the unordered list and unordered list. Okay, and again here little bit complicated the media object. Okay, media object and model maps just like a tabs only, just like accordions. Okay, and the nav bar I teach you already in the starting class. Okay, and pagination is also like a CSS only, and here main thing is the media objects, the model, and the navs, popovers, and scroll swipe, spinners, post. Okay, some of the things, some important. Okay, I will finish that tomorrow and most of the like the day after tomorrow class. These all elements. These are all components. Okay, and remember Ananta and Apurva. Once I shared the link, immediately download video file. Okay, keep it in your system. Now onwards.
Okay.
Okay, and the present week, like the present active link, I will share the links like date wise and download those options.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Bye.
Sure.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.